Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Blake the Book Eater here, and today I'm finally giving you guys my December wrap-up. Due to some audio problems in December, I wasn't quite able to get up the book reviews that I wanted, so there may not be individual book reviews for these books on my channel, and I am in the process of backlogging and filming some of them. I might not go back and film all of them, so I'm just going to include Steve's art for the thumbnails in this video because he did such a good job and I felt really bad about kind of messing that up. But going forward, you will be getting more individual book reviews, but for December, I'm sorry. Now, the first book that I read in December was actually one that I ended up finishing because I read it most of the back half of November, and that was Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this book just proved everything that I love about this series. This is book 4 in the Stormlight Archive, and every book in the Stormlight Archive I think is a flat-out masterpiece. They're all amazing, but specifically this book. I think this is my favorite book out of the entire series. The only one that might bump it down to second is The Way of Kings, just because I have so much love in my heart for that book specifically. But this one came out of nowhere. Well, it didn't come out of nowhere, but it took my heart away. And I loved the story in this so much. The characters in this, I think, were the most amazing that they've ever been. They've just grown so much in their arcs and with each other. And just the plot in this book was insane. It went in ways that I did not expect. It surprised me. It shocked me. It made me cry. And above all else, this just proves to me how much I love these characters, how much I love this world. This is my all-time favorite fantasy setting. These are probably my all-time favorite fantasy characters, and some of my favorite characters, period. And so if you didn't already know how much I love the Cosmere, I mean, I'm wearing a Cosmere shirt for God's sakes. But this series is phenomenal, and this got a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Duh. The next book I read in December was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Now, this book I picked up because of Joel and Elias, two of my good friends. They host the Late Night Book Club, so if you haven't subbed to them or are following the Late Night Book Club, make sure you do that because they pick an amazing book to read every month, and this was their November read. And so I picked this up just in time. I sped through it to catch the live show, and the live show was amazing. They talked and theorized, and it was just super fun. The third co-host, Noelle, she doesn't read a lot of fantasy, so this was her first introduction to fantasy, and just for her, I think it's a really good kind of stepping stone into adult fantasy for a lot of people. If you don't kind of read a lot of adult fantasy, if you have only read YA fantasy, I think this is a good kind of in-between. Now, Rebecca Roanhorse is a native author, and this book takes place kind of in a pre-Columbian Americas, where, well, not quite America, it's a fantasy world, but it's that kind of setting, so you don't see colonizers, you don't see white people for the most part, and I loved that. This follows Jala, who is a Teak sailor who's trying to get this mysterious kind of priest guy, Serapio, to the capital before the Black Sun, which is the eclipse. And things might get a little spicy between them along the way, and so that's like kind of the main plot thread. But then there's a second plot with Naranpa, who is the sun priest in the capital city, and she is dealing with kind of conflict in like the church and also the clans around them. And a lot of people did not like her perspective. Like, pretty much everybody I know who read Black Sun did not like Naranpa. I, however, loved her. I don't know what it is about her, but I just like really enjoyed her perspectives because I thought it was super interesting that she is, you know, the head of the religion, and she was raised from basically like a nothing orphan to being this huge religious power, and then having to try to hold on to that power even though she didn't want it. It was just kind of given to her. And so that dynamic was fantastic. And the stuff with Jala and Serapio, and then Iktan, who uses Z-Zim pronouns. They were amazing. And or Z was amazing. And I just, like, the whole cast, I think, worked so well in this book, and I loved it. I loved this book. The only reason why it got knocked down for me a little bit towards the end is the fact that it was a huge ass cliffhanger. So be warned, if you do not like books with cliffhangers, Black Sun has one mother of a cliffhanger, let me tell you that. And I'm just really excited to see where Rebecca Roanhorse is going to go in book 2 and in book 3. I have some ideas, and I would love to see those come to fruition, but also I trust her. She is now an auto-buy author for me, just based on, like, I tore through Black Sun in about 2 days, and that's, like, not highly unusual for me. Like, I can read books really fast, but there's just something about this book that I did not want to put it down, and when I did read it, I just kind of, like, ignored everything and just dove in. And so I love it when books make me do that, and Black Sun was definitely one that I dove into, and I loved every second of it. Then I picked up These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, just to see what all the hype was about, and let me tell you, the hype was deserved. It's kind of crazy to me that Chloe Gong published this book at the age she is. She's actually, I think, a year younger than I am, and it's like, this book is amazing. Her writing, her prose is just so iconic and nuanced and sophisticated. Like, it feels like somebody who's been writing books for like 20 years. Like, that's how meticulous and like perfect the prose is. And, like, I'm gonna talk about the actual book and the characters and stuff, but, like, seriously, like, the prose in this book is what made it stand out to me so much. And, like, that's why I'm so excited to just read anything that Chloe writes, because I do love these characters, and I'm really excited for Our Violent Ends, which is going to be the second book and the finale to this series. But just going forward in general, I will read anything by her. If she writes a grocery list, I will read it, because goddamn, she can write. Now, what's this book about? Well, let me tell you. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920 Shanghai, with some supernatural stuff kind of thrown in the mix, because there was a monster in the river and possibly a supernatural disease. So this book, I don't even know what to really say about it, other than you should probably go read it. It follows kind of the vaguest semblances to Romeo and Juliet, but we have Roma and Juliet Kai, or Roma Montagov and Juliet Kai, who are the heirs of their respective gangs. Roma is with the White Flowers, and Juliet is part of the Scarlet Gang. And so in that sense, it is kind of, you know, the families at war. It's quite literally a gang war. So that's really cool. And one trope that I loved that I haven't seen, like, a lot is the friends to lovers to enemies to lovers trope that she pulls off in this book. It's insane, and it's great, and I loved it. Roma and Juliet were just so distinct in their characterizations, and I just loved their banter together, because I think they worked really well as a duo. And also just the other side characters, like Benedict, Kathleen, like, these are just some of them, but just phenomenal. Flawless trans representation as well. I think this is a book that is going to resonate with a lot of people, and I'm just so excited to see how she's going to destroy me with Our Violent Ends, because like Black Sun, this has an ending that is not okay. It's a little bit more okay than Black Sun, though, because I feel like in These Violent Delights, I actually kind of got some closure to the story, even though it was a huge cliffhanger, whereas Black Sun, it ended like mid-sequence, guys. I'm telling you, it hurt me. But yeah, so this book was fantastic. So go pick it up if you haven't already. Find it anywhere you want to read, ebook, audio, what have you. This is one to watch. The next book was such a surprise because I had pre-ordered it months and months and months ago, and it just showed up, and I had forgotten that I had pre-ordered it because I forgot when it came out. But I am here to tell you that the newest volume of To Your Eternity was phenomenal. Now this is volume 13, and I believe the 14th volume is coming out within the next couple months as well. But this is a manga series, and it's being turned into an anime. It was supposed to come out in the fall, but you know, Corona, and so they bumped the anime series release date back to the spring. Now this is a series I think will become so popular, so if you want to get ahead of it, read the manga, I think now's the time to do so. It follows this immortal being who comes to Earth. Well, it's like an Earth, it's parallel Earth, you know, it's like Earth, but things are very different, histories are different, so it's fantasy. But so it follows an immortal as he comes to Earth, and he's like this orb. He's an orb, and so what happens is he actually assumes the form of things that he kind of like is in the vicinity of when they die. So very soon in the first one, he becomes a wolf, and then he meets a boy. Now, let me tell you, this series I think is one of the saddest manga series I've ever read because of its heavy themes. Like it's very much tied to death in a really powerful way, and how it moves on and how it lives on even after those who are gone, and how it lives in the heart of Fushi as he is come to be called. So Fushi, he travels around the world and meets lots of people and just lives because he's immortal, and you know, unfortunately the people around him that we also come to love, some of them die, and it's just so beautiful. This is the writer, I think she did another manga called A Silent Voice, which I think is a very popular manga, as well as an anime. I have not seen it, but from what I've heard, it's very emotional and impactful as well. So I think this author just does such a good job of setting up these emotional, high-stakes storytelling, but keeping the characters at the forefront. Why could I not say that? So this volume takes place after a time jump, because at the end of volume 12, we were kind of very much in the past era. There was like a huge arc with a lot of things going on. I'm not going to spoil anything, but this starts the beginning of a brand new arc where Fushi is now kind of in a modern day-esque world, and this was just so refreshing to me because I loved the original series, and well, I mean, it's the same series, but like it feels kind of very distinct now, like because when we were in the past it felt, you know, it like its own thing, but now we're keeping the elements and some of the characters from the old and integrating it into the kind of newer setting, and it's so well done. So there is a trigger warning in this this specific volume for suicidal ideation, and I would caution that is a trigger warning that should be used for this this particular volume. But as a whole, I think the series is phenomenal, and if you have not heard of it or read it, I highly recommend picking it up or searching it out, what have you, because A Silent Voice is 10 out of 10. It's so good. Or To Your Eternity. I said Silent Voice. To Your Eternity. 10 out of 10. So good. Next, I read some more graphic novels. East of West. I took the big volumes home with me, so I do not have them, but I read them in 3 big hardcovers. I think it was 10 volumes total, but they collected them into 3 bind-ups because it takes place over 3 years. So each year is collected into its own kind of deluxe hardcover bind-up, and that's how I read the series East of West. Now, this series was so interesting to me because it's the 3 years of the apocalypse. I'll just get that out of the way. This is about the apocalypse. The main character is Death, and the other 3 horsemen are kind of against him, and it's a weird futuristic sci-fi western dystopian strange setting. So the Civil War outcome was different, and instead of like the Union winning or the South winning or what have you, the United States and North America really was fractured into 7 different kind of factions. So you have these, way in the future from that, we have 7 very different solidified nations kind of vying for power, and then also dealing with the coming of these 3 horsemen and their messenger as they follow the message about how the end of the world is about to come. Meanwhile, we have Death, our main character, who is just searching for his wife. And he was betrayed by the other 3 horsemen in their last life, in their last incarnation, and so he wants revenge, and he just cares about getting what he wants and finding who he loves. And so in that sense, he was very much a kind of typical Western type protagonist. And to be fair, he's kind of bland as one. And as much as I really enjoyed him as a character, I will have to say all the side characters were so well done and so well developed. All the characters were given these kind of like little flourishes here and there, where you would read about them in, like the first year volume, and then like in volume 2, like the big. So like many actual, because you know how like they have like the bind ups, but then like there's like a couple volumes inside. So I don't know exactly what the issues were like or anything. I don't know, I'm talking. But yeah, so the characters would just like kind of turn on their heads and constantly surprise me. And so in that way, this series was very, very interesting. And I enjoyed it a lot. I gave the first book, I think, 4 stars. Yeah, so the first book was 4 stars for me. The second volume, year 2, I think was the best one of the entire series, or the best collection, like the middle kind of portion of the series, just because it was so intense, and a lot of things were going on. The characters were amazing, and I was just like consistently surprised. And I think the climax to that arc was the best of the series. And then we had the final volume, which wrapped up a lot of things very, very well. I felt like the payoffs were really well done. However, I was kind of disappointed with the very end of the series. I don't think it quite stuck the landing as well as I wanted it to, but it definitely was worth the journey, and I'm very glad that I read it. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, the art was beautiful, and the writing was really, really like kind of like easy to digest and made me want to keep reading. So if you're looking for a new comic book series this year, I definitely recommend East of West. Overall, I think I would give it about 4 stars, because I gave 4 stars to the bind up 1 and 3, and then 5 for volume 2. But I think overall as a series, it's sitting at 4 stars for me. So yeah, it's good. It's really good. So next, I read a series that has been screamed at me for the longest time, and one that I've been excited to read for the longest time, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So I dove into The Poppy War, and I gotta say, this book was such a fast read. I read, I think, the first half of it in a day, and then the second half took me a couple days. But I really, really loved this book. Now, here's the thing. I don't recommend this for you if any of the following trigger warnings kind of bother you. It's honestly too many to list, so I'm going to either put them in the description below or link them to a place where they can. There is an amazing blog by Tiffany, who she's an amazing booktuber and blogger, and if you don't follow her, please do. But so she kind of laid out just all the historical influences for the Poppy War trilogy, and she includes a very thorough list of trigger warnings in her description of that. So if any of the following bother you, please, this is not the series for you. I'm just gonna say that. Now this follows Rin, who is a war orphan, as she tests to take the Keiju, which is this kind of very intense test. So she wants to kind of get out of her old life and into a new one at the Sinigard Military Academy. And so I think it's fair to say that she does. She gets into Syndergaard, and while she's there, she meets her classmates. She is training, and that's the first half of the book. Now, the second half of the book takes a very, very, very different turn. So I think a lot of the people who are going into the Poppy War might be kind of confused by it, or not confused, but you might love the first half, and then the second half will hit, and you'll be like, excuse me, what? And so that's what the list of trigger warnings is for. So this is primarily a historical fantasy, I would say, with some supernatural elements mixed in. The supernatural elements are there, but they're kind of very subdued for the most part. And I really enjoyed the characters in this book specifically. I thought their arcs were great. The climax I thought was nail-biting. It was good. Overall, I thought this book was like honestly kind of pitch perfect across the board with character arcs, like just everything. Now, I will have to say, the characters start to do some things towards the end of this book that I personally, obviously, am not okay with. And so I think because after this I went on to read the rest of the trilogy, it became very hard for me to care or empathize with some of the characters after this. So that's why I think this book really sticks out to me as the best of the trilogy, at least in my opinion. And I'll get into that more in my kind of review of the series as a whole. But this is where I really empathize with the characters the most, and I think just the storytelling really drew me in so much. Now, again, I will have to reiterate that the second half of this book is very heavy. It takes a very dark turn. Like these are not like, if you see like this is not a YA book. Not at all. This is an adult fantasy book, and it is intended for adult readers. So if you are underage, I would suggest looking into some of the materials or talking to your parents before reading this series, because it is not light at all. And this is, I think, intended for like adults, because I think adults are really the only ones who are equipped to handle the mature themes and stuff in this book. Not saying that you can't if you're younger. It's just, this is a dark book. It's a very dark book. But overall, it's really good. So I gave the Poppy War 5 out of 5 stars. Then I took a break from the Poppy War trilogy to read The Dark One, created by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is based off of an idea that Brandon Sanderson has had for a while. He wrote the extended treatment. It was created and story by Brandon Sanderson, but it was written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, and it was drawn by Nathan Gooden, colored by Kurt Michael Russell, and lettered by Ann World Design. So that is The Dark One by Brandon Sanderson. Now, what is this about? Well, so you know the whole chosen one trope? Well, this follows a teenager as he kind of discovers that there is this parallel world to Earth, kind of like a fantasy-esque world, and that in that world, he is destined to be the Dark One. Now, I loved this concept just because it's very, we don't see that. You know, I mean, we have characters who are anti-heroes, and, you know, we follow the characters of prophecy, the good ones, but I think this is the first time I've read a book where the character was, like, destined to be the tyrant. And honestly, it's so good. Like, just the way the story threads come together. Now, this is volume 1, yes. But I think I got a lot of good closure from this, and I'd be very excited to see more volumes in this series, because I love the characters. The main character's mom, she is a lawyer, and her storyline interacts with the kind of fantastical storyline in a very, very cool way. And so, yeah, I just really loved the characters. I loved the kind of parallel world, and the prophecy. It's kind of like the story. And so it's like the story has been written, and the pages turn. It's hard to describe, but this was really cool. If you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson, pick this up. If you're not a fan of Brandon Sanderson, I would still pick this up because I think this is a very cool comic book as a whole. I think it's a very unique concept, and I do believe that Brandon Sanderson is turning this into a TV series as of right now, or they're negotiating about it, and that would be, I think, really, really interesting. I could definitely see this as being kind of like a new Netflix YA show, and it would do very well, I believe. So yeah, that's The Dark One. Very, very cool. 5 out of 5 from me. Now, the last book on my December wrap-up, the last one that I read in December, was The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, book 2 of the Poppy War trilogy. Now, I'm sorry to say, but this book disappointed me because I came off the high of the Poppy War and I loved the book, but the way that that book ended, if you read it, you know what I'm talking about, made it really hard for me to care about some of our main characters. And specifically in this book, I felt it was very repetitive. Now, I really loved the dynamics between Rin and the people that she's working with. I'm not gonna say who, but if you know, you know. The people that she's working with for most of the novel, I thought that dynamic was really cool. I thought some of the things set up at the end of the Poppy War were going to come into fruition, and it took until like towards the end of the book before they did, and even then it didn't last very long. I felt most of this book was just kind of tragedy porn. I know a lot of people talk about A Little Life as being kind of like very emotionally manipulative and just torture porn for emotions, basically, but that's what the Dragon Republic felt like to me with war crimes, because what was shown in the Poppy War was really shocking and really poignant, because it was this kind of isolated incident and it was just like, oh my god. And obviously I understand why R.F. Kuang included so much in the Dragon Republic, because the war has spread. It is a lot more, lots of things are going on now, so I definitely get the reason why a lot of that stuff was included in here, except to me it felt very repetitive, and also it just got very tiring to read about because it was very hard to read sometimes. And so I think because there was so much of that content in this book, that's why it got knocked down to 3 stars for me, because I did enjoy like bits and pieces of it overall, but I think as a whole it just kind of fell flat for me. I will talk about the last book in the trilogy, The Burning God, in my January wrap-up, and in my Poppy War trilogy review, because I did finish that, but technically I did not finish in December, so I'm gonna leave it out of this video. But much better than this one, in my opinion. So yeah, there's my controversial opinion, because I know a lot of people love the Poppy War trilogy, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's like, I think objectively good. I think just for me specifically, the second book didn't really hit me in the way that I wanted it to, and so yeah. But anyways, those are all the books that I read in December 2020, and I'm very glad for that year to be over. And you know, but then again, my hopes for a good 2021 were quickly dashed within the first week. So 2022, let's go. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching my entire video. I have a lot more planned, just because I do have a new mic now. It's nice and crisp, you can hear me. So I will be filming a lot more individual book reviews, as well as my wrap-up and TBRs, and the best books of 2020 I think will be the next video coming out on this channel, so keep an eye out for that. And with that said, if you do not follow me on Instagram or Twitter, please go do, because you know, your boy thinks he's a comedian on Twitter, so check that out and laugh at me. It's fine, don't care. And I do post some aesthetically pleasing pictures on Instagram sometimes. Occasionally. But yeah, that's it for this video. So if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I do post bookish content like this every week. And give it a like if you like this video, and leave a comment below. What did you read in December of 2020? What are you gonna read in January? Let me know. Anyways, thanks guys for watching. Love y'all. See you later.